be able to talk about what Estrella is. I'm just going to give you guys what Estrella is and what she does. Okay? So Estrella Chan works with an international professional to increase their English fluency, presentation and interview skills so they can advance faster in their career and business. Estrella's other career is copywriting. She helps businesses. She believes in increased revenue in several ways. By writing email campaigns that their ideal customers want to act upon. By recommending strategies so their websites get found by more people and their ideal customers as in Google. By writing video scripts that inspire their audience to action. And one of those videos, when you'll find in the first page on the YouTube within 3 weeks, and it has stayed there since then. So I would like, as you guys, I will ask questions as well to Estrella, and enjoy what Estrella is bringing for us today about how you guys can take advantage of this wonderful education that we have in from these presenters. Okay, so there you go, Estrella.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm glad we get to spend the next 15-20 minutes together. I hope you benefit from my ideas, both with your business connections as well as your social connections. In case you're wondering how this Chinese face get a Spanish name, there's a story to it. My grandfather moved to Panama when he was a young man. He moved from China. My mom was born in Panama. So all of my brothers and sisters have Spanish first names: Camilo, Francisco, Marco, Alicia, Josefina, and me. So that's how I got the Spanish name, but I am Chinese. The title, even though the title today is how to facilitate discussion in a multicultural meeting, the ideas I share with you can actually apply to any participant in the group. You don't have to facilitate the group meeting to use these ideas. And also how the person who wants to participate in a discussion, but don't know how, so there's some strategies that I would like to share with you. The clients that I work with are usually international professionals transferring to the US. They are already with the company, but they're just moving here. So they already know some English, but in their country, they don't speak English every day, 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And so when they are here attending meetings with their American colleagues, sometimes it's a bit challenging because they might speak too fast or they might use idioms that they don't know. And later on, I'll go into some of the specific challenges of why my clients find it challenging to participate in discussions. And they're not the only ones who find it a challenge. The American companies who move them here also want them to participate in discussions because, that's how you get really good ideas, perspective from different cultures. But they also notice that some international employees are not joining into the group discussions. So that's the challenge. So the strategies, I'm going to share 3.5 strategies with you that you can use, whether you're a facilitator or a participant or the person wanting to increase that skill in participating in discussion groups. I'm going to start by a story with Masashi. He is a client from Japan. When he was in Japan, he received an award for his IT contribution, and the award is a presidential award from the president of the country, not the company. So that gives you an idea of his caliber of his contribution. So when I met him, he's been in Seattle for a couple of years at that time. And he said to me, Estrella, I want to participate in group discussions, but the format here, people just speak whenever they want. When they think of an idea, they just jump in. And sometimes they even interrupt another person who is speaking. So I don't know when to jump in. I'm going to circle back to that issue later. I went to elementary school in Hong Kong, and at least at that time, discussion, classroom discussion, group discussion was not a thing. Maybe it's changed some today, because as they're exchange students, people learn different methods from around the world. But at least at that time, it wasn't a thing. So when I started going to American schools, I was at a complete loss, in classroom discussions. What is that? What do I say? And I noticed that as I work with clients from different countries, they also came from educational system that where it's not common to have classroom discussions. Did someone have a question? No, okay. When I was teaching universities, one of the classes I taught was an English class to MBA candidates from Thailand. And I knew that when they joined the regular MBA classes with other American students, their grade, 33% of their grade will be based on classroom participation. And knowing their background, I decided that that's an important skill for them to learn and to practice. So every day for 1 hour, 5 days a week, 11 weeks, that's all we did. We discuss. People take turns facilitating the meeting, and I would walk behind them, stand behind them, and coach them. This is when you can say something like this, or when to jump in, and how and when to jump in. So when they graduated from their MBA program, I ran into several of the students, and they said, wow, what we practice in class really helped me to participate in my MBA classes along with my American classmates. And they grew up with this. They're used to this. So it is a learnable skill. It can be developed. So let me circle back to Masashi. What he did was I showed him some of the ways that he could signal to the facilitator of the meeting that he has something to say using body language. And every group meeting that Masashi went to, he would practice at least one of those tips. And over time, he did get more and more comfortable with jumping into discussion. You see, in his culture, that's not how people conduct meetings. They take turns. They go around the room to share. And while one person is speaking, the other people listen. So this jumping in could even be perceived as rude, maybe. Now, what could the facilitator have done to encourage Masashi to speak? He, and I know it's a he because Masashi told me it's a man. What the facilitator could have done is, before he moves on to the next point in the agenda, he could say to the group, before we move on, I would like to go around the room and hear from those who haven't had a chance to share yet. If you want to, feel free to add to this point that we just talked about. Masashi, how about we start with you? Then that way he is giving the floor to Masashi, and Masashi doesn't have to fight for his chance to speak. And the company get to benefit from a brilliant engineer who got a presidential award for his IT contribution. So that's point one, to go around the room, make sure that everyone has a chance to speak. That doesn't mean to change the format, because everyone is already used to that brainstorming format where you just speak when you have an idea. But this is just to add one more step to it. A side note that's sort of related to this. There is a client I work with. We meet during her company time. And it also happened to be break time while we're meeting. So sometimes people talk outside the meeting room, and they would be right outside the door, which means they're disrupting Carla and me. So I would say to Carla, hey, maybe you can ask them if they could move over just a little bit from the door because you're in class. And she said to me, well, I can't do that because my boss is in that group. So there's a hierarchical thing going on. And there's another client from New York. She's in the pharmaceutical business. She's one of the directors, and her boss is one of the VPs. She told me that when her boss is in the meetings, she is more mindful of what she say because she doesn't want to step on her boss's toes. She wants to be respectful and make her boss look good. So just be mindful that in some cultures, that hierarchical concept is stronger than perhaps in the US. So that was my first point. Let me move on to the second point. I think some of the most common comments from my clients about why it's challenging for them to join in discussions is that people speak too fast. My American coworkers speak way too fast. And sometimes they use slangs and idioms that I don't know, and I have to stop to figure out what does that mean. And the other thing is some people translate in their head. So as they hear, once they listen to their coworker, in their mind, they're maybe translating into their own language. And when they want to express their ideas, they have to formulate how to express the idea cohesively in English. And by that time, people might have moved on to the next point. So it's kind of hard to say, hey, wait a minute, wait for me. And so to solve that dilemma, what the facilitator can do is to send an agenda out to all the participants ahead of the meeting, give them a day or two at least. That way, those who need the time to formulate how to say the idea in English would have the extra time to prepare. So that's number two, send out an agenda ahead of time. A third tip is the day before, a day or two before the meeting, go to the facilitator, go to the people who usually don't share too much during discussions, and go to them individually, not as a group, just one-on-one. For example, he would go to Masashi and say, you know, that agenda that I sent out for tomorrow, I was wondering what your thoughts are on point number 2. And then Masashi would share his ideas because he always has good ideas. And by doing that, he would have rehearsed how to say it in English, and he would feel heard by the facilitator. And then during the meeting, when the moment is right, the facilitator could say something like, you know, yesterday I was talking to Masashi about this point, and I really like what he has to say. Masashi, would you mind sharing what you said to me yesterday? And there, you have just given the floor to Masashi. He doesn't have to fight for his chance to speak, and the company gets to hear his brilliant ideas. Win, win, win. So point number 4 or 3.5 has less to do with facilitating. It's more about small talk. One of my clients moved to Portland, Oregon, and she's not new to the company, but she's new to the US team. So in doing Zoom meetings, before Zoom meetings, there are usually a few minutes and people chit chat, have some small talk. It's really a good time to build rapport with the group. And she wanted to do that. But the group always talk about topics that she doesn't know anything about, you know, the game that's popular in that city, or someone would say a joke and everyone laughs and she doesn't know what they're laughing about because the joke has a cultural context to it. So in Moni's case, what can she do? If she feels comfortable and safe enough to say that in the group, she could maybe say something like, you know, I'm new to this culture. I don't know about that topic. Could you explain it to me? Or if it is a joke, she could say something like, it sounds like that joke sounds like it has a cultural context to it. Could you explain that to me? Or even better yet, if a coworker observes that Moni is kind of quiet, you know, getting bored, not participating, she or he could say something like, "Oh, Moni, I hope we're not boring you with this topic because this game is a big deal in this town, but I don't know if you follow that. Is that a popular game in your country? what is popular in your country? And now the coworker has given the floor to Moni, and more importantly, she feels included as part of the group, which helps to build that trust and rapport. And you can use the exact same technique in a social situation. You're at a party, and you know how in parties you usually have small groups and they would chit chat. And if you happen to notice that someone from another country is, sitting back, looking a little bored and not not included, you could say the same thing. Oh, Estrella, I hope you're not bored with what we're talking about. I don't know if this is a common topic in your country. And so now you have given the floor to me and I feel included. So those are the 3.5 tips I want to share with you. Let me just review them. One is, before you move on to the next point on the agenda, go around the room and make sure that everyone has a chance to share if they want to. 2, send the agenda ahead of time. So those who need the extra preparation time can figure out, how do I say my idea in English? 3, the day before the meeting, go to each person that usually doesn't participate and ask them for their specific input on maybe 1 point or 2 points on the agenda. That way, that gives them a chance to rehearse in their mind how to say it in English. And because it's one-to-one, it's much easier to share with you. Then during the meeting, give the floor to them, find the right moment and say, no, yesterday I talked with Masashi and I really like what he has to say. Would you please share that with us, Masashi? And number 4, small talk, how to include people by giving them the floor. And basically the general idea is finding a way to create a space that make it comfortable for that person to join in. However you do that, that's the whole point. So now I would like to answer your questions.
Oh, great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Moses.
Another question for you. Is good experience for you and the client other countries?
Is good?
Yeah, for different culture.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which culture they come from, but your question is about how to include them, or?
Yeah, you is interesting. For you, the massage is correct, no? Massaging?
Masashi is from Japan. Yeah.
You are the working for much people, other people of country. You are maybe Mexican, maybe
Yes.
China.
Yeah.
It's good for you for more people, no?
Yes. It has enriched my life so much. I have experience that I wouldn't have otherwise if I didn't work with people from different cultures. So enriching.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah. Thank you, Moses.
Okay.
Well, if sometimes you may think of a question, after the conference, feel free to just send me an email. If you think of those questions, you just want to brainstorm. My email address is my name, estrellachan@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to just brainstorm with you, figure out a solution.
Thank you so much, Estrella, for sharing your ideas.
My pleasure. Thank you, Leo.
So, Estrella, thank you for sharing, and also Moises and Leonardo. Estrella, there is a question in the chat. So I'm going to, right now, I want to say that I'm going to as well. So it says here, okay, the question comes from One moment.
Oh, from Reverend Kristen, yes?
Yes, yes. Let's see. Trying to hear to read as well. You can read the question. Okay, one moment here. So I go. Okay, it goes faster to me. So let's see. You guys can see as well. And you scroll.
Should I read it? Read the question out loud? Yeah, I've noticed some cultures spend more time on personal, lengthier exploring that don't appear efficient in many typical American meetings that aren't so friendly. Facilitating for me must prepare for that too, I suppose. Oh, wow. That's a challenging one, isn't it? Because American meetings, they want to get to the point, you know, be specific, be precise. And I know what you mean, because some cultures, they want to explain the context, the background, so you understand the whole picture. I was wondering, Reverend Kristen, if you could, is your question how to handle that situation, or what? Could you respond back in the chat?
Would you like to?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just that I'm in a lot of meetings that are an hour long. And not everybody has time to explain their 20-minute stories. And so we're typically used to making them really fast. But we want to be welcoming to people from other cultures. And I feel like it's the facilitator's job to understand maybe the meeting ought to be set up for 2 hours, not one. Or how do we make that a change?
Let me think about that for a minute. So since the facilitator already know this is happening, at the beginning of the meeting, say something like, because we want to finish the 10 points on this agenda, as we go around the room or as you speak, if you could please limit your share to 2 minutes, that will make sure that everyone has a chance to share. I don't know if that's helpful, Reverend Kristen, in your case.
I think your tips were really good, and it just gives me something to think about. And so I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yes, that's a tricky one, because you know, you want to be friendly and yet people go on and you're trying to stay on time. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah, I appreciate the question.
Thank you, Estrella. Thank you, Reverend Christine. Thank you for the support as well and the questions here, each of you. Good effort and work that help us more business.